I'll take it. All right. All right. All right. So, as I mentioned, I can talk about Big Frog all day long, and chances are plenty of you have heard me talk about Big Frog, but today I don't want to talk about Big Frog specifically. I want to talk about something on a more personal level, and that is working with graphic partners, aka what my employees dub what we wish customers knew. Now with this, I'm going to go over a lot of different topics, but it covers the whole graphic industry spectrum. So whether you're working with a t-shirt printer like us, or a car graphic wrapper, or a billboard designer, or a website designer, or anybody else that deals with graphics, this applies to just about every type of graphic industry. So please take note. It's my job to make your job easier, to make my job easier. And my employees will thank you for it. So first, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, copyright. Now, just as a preface, I am not a lawyer. I am not giving legal advice. If you have any questions about copyright law, please seek out a copyright lawyer. This is just from our own perspective, all right? So first, always assume copyright is in effect. It doesn't matter if you found it on Google. It doesn't matter if you saw it on a TV show. It doesn't matter if you think it's public domain. Always assume copyright is in effect. For example, if you decide to go online and you find a nice little graphic, or you see someone on TV wearing a nice little, funny shirt, that doesn't give you the right to go on Google, steal it, and call it yours. You wouldn't want someone doing that with your artwork, so why do it to theirs? Just because you see it somewhere else doesn't mean it's free to use. You can easily have copyright fines slapped on you in no time at all, and it's not fun to deal with on the receiving end or the sending end, trust me. Now, with that, as soon as more food comes out, with that, don't always just go on Google and grab an image and send it to your graphic designer saying, this is what I want. It's a great idea for inspiration, but it's not a good idea to actually call it your own and use it. I cannot tell you how many people just send us Google image results and say, hey, here's my logo. No, it ain't. I'm sorry, but it's not. You just got it on Google because it still has a watermark on it. No. But it's amazing how many people think that just because they found it on Google that they can use it. And I'm sorry, no, you just cannot. If it is from a TV show, I don't care if it's Big Bang Theory and you see Sheldon wearing the funny DC shirts. I don't care if you're watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine and you see the captain wearing a funny shirt on the TV show. I don't care if it's an animated show with a design that someone's wearing. Every single design you see on TV is copyrighted in some form, and chances are being sold through the studio's website. It's amazing how many people don't know that. Now, when it comes to copyright, we also have licenses. Now, licenses can pertain to anyone or any item that tells you how to use the item you're getting. Now, a license can say, hey, you can use this wherever you want. And that's great because then that means you can use it on cars and business cards and billboards and banners and websites and everything else. But some licenses are very particular about what they do. They say, hey, this can be used on a business card, but you better not put it on apparel. Believe me, that does exist. So please, if you're going to go to any place and buy a license, research the license to make sure it actually does what you want it to do. Because otherwise, you may be violating copyright, and that's not a good thing. Now, there are Creative Commons licenses that allow you to add the item and manipulate the image or the item itself within attribution, and it also depends on where you're getting it from. Again, not a copyright lawyer, but there are plenty of different Creative Commons licenses that are more flexible, but again, make sure you research the copyright and the license to make sure you can do it. Get into that. Next is fair use. Has everyone heard of the fair use law? All right, good. A lot of people think that just because something is in fair use and they're going to put it on their own thing that they can use it. Well, technically you're paying someone else to produce that item, so technically you're still paying for the service to be made, and therefore fair use doesn't apply. There are plenty of YouTubers that go online and download a video and do a commentary on it, that technically fair use does cover as far as education, commentary, stuff like that. But again, you can't just go online and find a logo and say it's yours and call it fair use. Again, not a copyright lawyer, just be aware of that. The last fun one in copyright that I want to cover is public domain. Now this is a little fun because does everyone know the big, super big company that had a certain character enter the public domain in the past 2 weeks?
Disney, the original Mickey Mouse.
Technically, yes. Mickey Mouse is in the public domain, but only the Steamboat Willie version. Which means that these two black and white ones that don't have the gloves, you can use all day long because these are in public domain. But the moment you make his suit red, the moment you add the yellow shoes, the moment you have white gloves, that's a copyright.
Wow.
So, yes, Mickey is in public domain, but only the first two Steamboat Willie versions.
That's a question. Is that kind of similar to like words like Q-tip and things when they, I've heard that
Xerox,
kind of,
that kind of
just
stuff.
certain words that can be used without an infringement.
Technically, yes. Terms like Q-tip or Kleenex and Xerox are technically registered trademarks of those companies. So while they are a well-known brand and kind of the ubiquitous term for that item, technically it's still their business. Now when it comes to public domain as well, you may also think that, well, just because the Steamboat Willie version is public domain but Mickey Mouse isn't, doesn't that mean I can use anything else? No. Not really. For example, Pooh Bear is in public domain. However, the red shirt version is not. The red shirt version is Disney's version. The non-shirt version is public domain. The just standard teddy bear, that's what it was. Disney got their hands on it, added a red shirt, that's their copyright. And last but not least, this one I love. Does anyone know who this is?
I can't see it. No. Is it?
This is one of the original versions of a popular Greek god. How about this one? Does that one ring any bells?
Loki.
Yeah. So Loki as a Norse god is in the public domain, but Disney's version, the Tom Hiddleston version, is not. So make sure that you have the different ideas and different understandings when it comes to public domain law. Now last but not least, if you happen to get slapped with a copyright case, hopefully you don't, but just in case, the first thing that you should get, I'm not saying you absolutely will, but you should, is a nice, I like to call it cease and desist letter. It's like a slap on the wrist. And I'm being very loose with that definition because if you see something that has a legal heading on it and says you better stop using this, then chances are you're shaking your boots right now. If, for example, the company decides to basically forego that step and sue you, they have the right to do so. Now, this brings up a very good example of past month or so. A certain someone decided that she was going to make tumblers with a famous country artist image on it. Now, she thought nothing of it. I mean, it was a side business. She probably, made $200, $300 or so over the past year. She thought nothing of it. And then all of a sudden, this country star's legal team decides to seek her out and sue her over email, which is legal in the state they sent it in. Little did she know she was being sued for $500,000 for $200 of tumblers. Now, if anyone knows this case, the country star in question actually did reach out to this person and say, hey, I'm sorry for what happened. My legal team's just going after the big guys because they want to make money off my copyright, blah, 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 and I'm going to reimburse you for everything that happened. That is one particular case out of thousands that happen per week. So if you're going to say that the big famous artist is going to come to your rescue, they're not. They don't care about you. They want their money. So.
Who's the artist?
Luke Bryan, I think.
Oh,
Yeah. So, enough on copyright, enough on legal stuff. Again, not a lawyer, but please make sure that if you're going to work with a graphic artist, you understand copyright to at least the most minuscule degree. Because if you don't, then you just grab something off Google. Then you haven't done your research. I'm sorry.
So, you know the graphic design Canva?
I'm gonna get that.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question.
So, next, let's talk about image file types. Most people think that image file types are, well, whatever's on the computer. And while you are right, you're kind of halfway there. Woo. When it comes to actually using graphics, there are plenty of different file variations to use, and all of them have their pros and cons. The most common one is called a JPEG or a JPG. Now, most people know what a JPEG is because, well, it's what's used on their website, it's what's on the business card, it's what most manuals and most computers have nowadays in some format. And JPEGs are okay, but they're also meant to be a very small file size, which means as far as a big graphic version, probably not the best thing to use. I actually have a good example of this. A customer, I'm not saying they're bad, I appreciate their business, but a customer decided to send us their JPEG from their website, which sounds like a great idea. However, once you actually put it on something material, such as a car or a billboard or a business card, you don't realize how small it is. So that's the actual size of the logo.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So not a good idea to just grab the first JPEG you see and send it off.
And if you make it bigger, then it ruins the quality, doesn't it? If you try to make it bigger to fit the shirt.
Long story short, yes, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay, sorry.
Now, when it comes to different file formats, my recommendation is called a PNG. This is a step up from a JPEG because, one, it allows for transparency, because that allows you to change the background, put it on multiple gradients or graphics, or put it on business cards, or add anything else to it, because you can do anything with the background and allow the full graphic to stand out, which works a whole lot better than your standard JPEG, which does not do that. JPEG doesn't have the ability to have a transparent layer. A step up from that, if you have any experience with Photoshop, is an EPS. Now, if you have anything to know about graphic formats, EPS is usually the go-to format because it allows for the embedding of fonts and graphics. PNGs have no idea what the font is. They just export it and say, here's the image. JPEGs care less. But EPS is allowed for the embedding of all of that, so if you send it off to a graphic artist, they have everything they need, 99.9% of the time, to work with that graphic, no questions asked. Step up from that is even SVG, which is scalable vector graphics, allows you to scale up and down without losing quality. Step up from that is the Adobe Illustrator file AI, and there are thousands of others. So if you just grab the first JPEG you see and send it off, chances are you're not going to work very well with that. Which brings me to my next point of image quality. When you're working with a graphic artist, make sure to send them the highest quality version possible. If your boss only gave you a 10 kilobyte JPEG and that's all you got, that's all you got. But if they have access to a 20 megabyte EPS file somewhere in their network hard drive, then by God, use that. Because it's going to make things a whole lot easier. Because if you send over the tiniest JPEG and you try to put it on something huge, well, it doesn't quite work. I mean, it's the logo, it's nice, but it's very, very fuzzy, and no amount of magic is going to make this better. If anyone's seen CSI and you have the magic ability to enhance and enhance and enhance and enhance, that doesn't exist. I'm sorry. There are plenty of AI tools out there that can make the process a little better, but nothing's going to be absolutely 100% perfect. So if you take a tiny image and you blow it up, it's going to get blurry. It's going to lose quality. It's going to lose focus. If you take a big image and shrink it down, it's a win-win for everyone. All right. Which brings me to my next point, talking about colors. Not color theory, just colors. Now, everyone here, I'm assuming, has passed the first grade, right?
Yeah.
So you know your basic colors, red, green, blue, orange, yellow, Roy G. Biv, all that stuff, right? But when it comes to actually working with graphic artists, and graphic designers, and graphic companies, you need to know what the colors they are working with before you actually have the final product. Now, most people, where's the thing? Most people, when it comes to colors, they know a spectrum called RGB. That stands for red, green, blue. And RGB can be represented in one of two ways. One, a 3 to 6 alphanumeric hexadecimal code. So ABC123 is a perfect example. Or a triplet of numbers from 0 to 255. RGB can be represented in either of those methods. However, RGB works best for digital formats, TVs, phones, large billboards, and jumbotrons. That's great for RGB. But it's not great for actual printing. And if you have an inkjet printer, you know what I mean. Most printing facilities operate in a different spectrum called CMYK, which stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And the big difference is that if you take RGB and you add all the colors together, you get white. So your TV, by default, displays black because it has no power, it can't display anything. But it has to combine all these colors together to make white. On the other hand, white is the default color in printing materials. So in order to get black, you have to combine all the colors. If you ever mix paint cans together, you know what I mean. If you ever have an inkjet printer at home from the 1990s, you know what I mean. So based on this, you have to combine the cyan, the magenta, and the yellow to even get black. If you have black as a color, that's great. But if not, you have to combine them all to make black. And that's where the difference is when it comes to printing. CMYK black is not the same as RGB black. Which takes me one step further to Pantones. And again, if anyone's painted, you know what a Pantone is. A Pantone or a Pantone matching system is a registered system by the Pantone company for color matching. And again, it's great for printing, but it's not great for digital displays. It's not great for the side of cars. It's not great for actual t-shirts because you can't guarantee a PMS match to a CMYK color or convert an RGB to a perfect PMS match. There are a whole different spectrum of ideas to work with this, but this is just a general concept of the different ideas when it comes to colors. Now, coming to online sources. First off, Canva. Canva is a great tool to use. Honestly, it has so many features, I could do a whole entire presentation on it, but I'm not. However, if you're using the free version, you're very, very limited on what you can do. Especially when it comes to working with graphic people. Because if you're only using the free version of Canva, you can only download, let's just say, a 500 by 500 pixel image or version of the image you're working with. Chances are no transparent background, no scalability, no embedding of fonts, not really anything to work with except a free small version of your logo. Thank you. And that's okay, but if you're going to work with Canva, chances are your graphic designer is working with Canva as well, so just send them the link. Chances are they're paying for Canva, I know we are, and there are plenty of features to work with, including their Magic AI, that's just wonders. But if you have Canva, send your graphic person the link so they can import the graphic, they can download it and do all the different formats they need, and they can manipulate it instead of having to worry about your JPEG one version that really isn't manipulatable. Based on that, Canva by itself, great tool. However, when it comes to other services like Vistaprint and Custom Ink, chances are someone in here has used one or both of those services at some time in their life. And other services like that that have online design tools are great. But keep in mind copyrights. The logo they provide may not be your logo. The logo they provide may be used in 500 other businesses, who knows, probably down the street. You have no way of actually getting that image that you created using their online design tool and making it yours. I mean, within legal reason. But again, there's no way for you to actually claim that. So when you take your custom ink order and send it to Vistaprint, they have no idea what you're doing. They have no idea how to get it. They have no idea how to send it off. They have no idea how to actually convert it. And chances are they're not going to care either way. So based on that, the final design, again, may not be yours. It may be on your t-shirt or your hat or your book or anything else, but it's not yours to call yours. Which brings me to other services like Redbubble and Etsy. Again, not saying anything bad about them, but they are parent companies for individual sellers. And the parent companies don't abide by copyright. They just don't care. So if one of their vendors apparently decides to sell a Mickey shirt Well, guess what? Disney's gonna come after them like no tomorrow. They're going to sue that person's going to shut down their business, and guess what? Tomorrow morning, they got a new business up and going. Because they don't care. They're small, independent people, and they really don't care about anything. The parent companies are not gonna step in and protect them, because again, they don't care. The graphic company down the street that's been working with you for 20 years, they care about copyright. They care actually what happens. So they're gonna make sure that the graphic you use and the graphic they print actually follows those guidelines. That also brings me to other services that offer free logo design. Again, the logo that they provide may not be yours to call your own. Yep. That is, unless you purchase a license. That may give you the right to work with the graphic, it may not. Again, look into the license. And last but not least, when it comes to sending larger files, chances are our emails have a very limited file sending limit on them. For example, Gmail allows you to send 25 megabytes, but what if your file is 26 megabytes? Well, there are a few options to send off. You don't have to give someone your flash drive if you still have one of those. For one, if you're using Dropbox or OneDrive, they have the ability to share a link to the actual file, and you can send that to your graphic person. They can download that one particular file and have no other access to your actual drive, which is great. Or if you don't have those service, a free service I recommend is WeTransfer.com. You can send 2 gigabytes for free to whoever you want to send it to, and it stays on their servers for 7 days. So by this time next week, it'll be off their servers like it never existed. The last thing that I want to talk about is something that my employees highly recommended as part of the items we wish customers knew part, and that's the question, how much is it? Well, how much is it? I don't know, because I have no idea what you're doing. Is it a pizza? Is it a beer? Is it a car? Are we selling lights? Are we selling graphics? Are we selling into the White House? I have no idea. So how much is it? I have no idea, because I need to know more about the project before I can price you. So when it comes to actual pricing items, such as business cards or t-shirts or hats or koozies or notebooks or anything else, have an idea about what you actually want before you start asking that question. Because price is determined based on a number of factors. So know what you want, know what the end result should be. It can always change. But you need to know what type of service is required, or at least what service is expected. The printing or manufacturing technique, the materials needed for the job, what the time frame is. Having something by tomorrow is going to be a lot more costly than in 4 weeks. And if you need shipping, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to drive to LA tomorrow. I would rather ship it, but I'd also rather have someone pay for shipping. So based on that, hopefully I provided you with more information than you'll ever need. I have a little handout in case you didn't take notes. I'll also put this on the Facebook page as well, in case you want that as well. And hopefully, again, this provides you with more information to make your job easier, to make my job easier when working with graphic design companies. Thank you.